All right. So, was Ishmael a prophet? Right. I think that's a question that needs to be addressed. And I mean, before I get into that and shit, it gonna take too long. But what's a prophet? Right. A prophet is someone who speaks for God, but typically is set for a specific time and the people. Usually, since Adam, that has been a certain group of people, or a specifically chosen set of people. And then once you got to Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob, they kind of popped out of the 12 tribes. So, could Ishmael be a prophet? Did he speak for God? I'd say that he spoke to a specific group of people, right? And it was a different time. What would give me like evidence to for it is the fact that after Jesus, God was opening his one-on-one relationship with everyone else, right? And usually the prophets would deal with that area of captivity, or in Israel you have multiple prophets at one time. Um, and it seems to me that it would have went in order, right? Um, Rome, which was going, I think, just meant other nations. Um, that was a fusion of other nations and the tribe of Dan. So he was tackling the family, which Dan and Esau. That was Greek. That was Rome. So and there's like a whole bunch of like Esau is a very diverse people, and so is Ishmael. Uh, they didn't look like anybody at this point. Um, so he tackled what a lost tribe, and he tackled Esau, and then the people group that was right there. So if you're going back up, that handles Jacob with the 12 tribes. They was in constant communication. Then you handled the lost tribe. Then you handled the twin brother of Jacob. If you're going up, Isaac is Jacob. So the next one would be Ishmael and the brothers subsequent, right? Because Abraham had a lot of kids. So it would make sense what Islam started like, I want to say like 400, 500 years after Christ. So after it was dealing in Rome, which is big. Ishmael was the recitation, so he was in that area. He was listening to the Jews. Some people speculate that he was actually um, half Jewish, of Jewish descent, with Ishmael's blood, which would make sense because after after the diaspora, like Israel went south, right? There's a long-standing history of the Jews, or the Jews and Hebrews interacting with the people down there. So Africa, um, the Bedouin tribes which would have been Ishmael. So then, like, they were really like crypto Jews. Whenever Jews were persecuted, they would hide their faith. They could have fit in with the Bedouins again because they're genetically similar. They could have fit in with the Africans again because they're phonetically similar. So yeah, say phonetic. Is that the right word? Phenotype? Yeah, phenotypically similar. Phonetically would have been words, but whatever. Um. So yeah, the the bloodlines could have mixed, and so some say that um, not Ishmael, Muhammad. My bad. Was Muhammad a prophet? So yeah, he really could have been, um, and just how uh, the Bible has been dissected and interpreted in many uh, well thought out ways on how to interpret the Bible. I just say that to keep your mind on a certain like trajectory. I would say the same thing about Islam, and a few interesting things about it is that they say that they recently found edits that were made about the Quran, and and so that says that there was changes made. So, in all actuality, if God sent Muhammad there for that specific group of people, well, you're rounding up a very diverse group of individuals. And at that time, they've been worshiping um, just a plethora of pantheons at that point. Um, so what would God need for it to be effective on that specific group of people? Well, I mean, submission to God. It makes sense. It makes sense. And what was he doing? He was reciting the stories of the Hebrew Bible, right? There might be a little uh, differences, but the overall message gets sent there. And if you look at like Islam, it's it's gathering up and trying to. It's essentially a lot of laws. So if you're gonna like, hey, I'm gonna need to get you guys on the same level. If I've only dealt with Israel, only Israel would have this uh, level of discipline. And what he was trying to do, he was trying to end the schooling so that Israel could then go forth and disperse this information to other nations and not see them as enemy or somebody to be separated from. And I mean, Israel just was so trained in the dogma that it was just hard for Israel to do it. And then at the same time, they were being prosecuted. So, I mean, that didn't help. But it gave time for uh, two other nations, right, to understand, like, as if they were raised in God's house, right? Like, but they're different people groups with they're different cultures. So God's catering specifically to Rome, and He's catering specifically to the Ishmaelites, right? They require different handling. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got two different kids. The personality is different. You got to raise them a little bit different, but you raise them overall in the same house, right? So it gave them the time to get that understanding and that closeness with God, and it gave. So that's why everything works for the better. Um, it gave the Jews time to unlearn the strictness, because now they were spread out. There was no cohesiveness. A lot of them lost track of their practices, but it's still in the blood, right? We just had to get reintroduced, but now we are able to see a different perspective, to see the perspective of other nations, of other households, right? So I would say Muhammad was a prophet. He was a prophet to a branch of God's family, and God really is a family man. You know what I'm saying? He really cares about his kids, so he wasn't gonna leave them out. He was gonna go back in order. So yeah, I'd say anytime God is trying to give his perspective, right, his words, there's always going to be an attack of the enemy, though. You know what I'm saying? It goes without saying. So I could, if I believe that he is a prophet, and I believe that what he was saying was specific to that group, because you know the dynamics change. It's not just Jews now. It's not just Hebrews, right? It said all will prophesy, right? 1 second. But at the same time, right? How do we look at the context of that book, right? The Quran. So what I've learned is you don't necessarily have to be 100% correct for God to speak out of you. God's speaking out of you from your perspective. As long as your heart's 100%, then it's enough. He doesn't need to give you all accurate, quote unquote, information. He needs to give you information that'll get the job done, right? Because the perspective of God in the Bible shifts, right? At first, it was polytheistic. Elohim was plural. It wasn't until a captivity happened, I think the Persian one, that they started to gear towards monotheistic, right? To the whole nation. Moses believed in one, right? But that's different. It's really hard to pinpoint the exact, like a set of knowledge for an entire people group. You know what I'm saying? So many goddamn people. Feel me? So, yeah. And then also, their perception of the afterlife for Israel also changed dramatically. Some of them didn't even believe that there was an afterlife. Some of them did. You got the Sadducees. You got the whatever the other ones is called. Yeah. Not only that. Well, I mean, let's stick on that. Like, you have an example of Saul, the king, going to a woman and speaking and like connecting to like a dead ancestor or something like that, right? But you also have a prophet who said the dead don't the dead can't hear you. The dead can. Was he wrong? Was he not a prophet now? No, it's just his perspective. And his perspective overall didn't like conflict with the overall like intention of what God was trying to portray at that moment. You feel me? Um, because later on, Jesus says there's a Abraham's bosom in hell. So now we have a context of hell. When it comes to hell being eternity, what God gave me was it's eternity because it's your light body. In science, light doesn't experience time. This is why we age, but overall, our soul kind of just stays at a useful, like, middle level. Like, we don't feel any older than, like, 25 after a while. But, you know what I'm saying? You don't think about aging. You just experience time. Our bodies experience time. We just experience moments, right? And that's what light does. From the time that photon leaves the sun to the time it hits Earth, it has not experienced, it's experiencing the same moment. And so that's how hell was explained to me, right? It's eternity, because if you have no concept of time, it's going to be eternity, right? And that's how I was able to reconcile reincarnation with hell, right? But you also have the time when Jesus was in hell preaching to the people before the flood. So what's the significance of that, right? Well, I think you have, I'm going to say the afterlife can change. It's not stagnant. Because Abraham's bosom was sucked up by the rest of hell, right? So I'm going to say, this is what I believe, right? So I believe he was giving me that hell is eternal because of the time thing. And then after a certain amount of time, like before the flood, our lives were like super fucking long, right? So you have a set amount of humans that were born that time. After the flood, those humans went to hell, right? Reincarnation is a thing, but I think after a world cycle is done, your punishment, like you don't have any bodies to reincarnate into, right? So those will just be new humans on the next Earth until another cycle. So once this, Jesus comes back, he destroys this Earth and creates another one, right? At that moment, that's when you're sentenced to a longer stay in hell. And I think it'll be about 3,000 years. And the reason I say that is because of Zoroastrianism, which Zoroastrianism parallels quite well with the Bible. You know what I'm saying? If you look at it. So, I mean, it'll be destroyed by fire. Lava will come out of the earth, and it'll burn those up who aren't righteous, and then for those that are, it'll purify them, and they'll shine like gold. The same verbiage can be seen in Revelation, right? So it's all talking about the same thing. The word "the saints," I believe that word came from the Saiyosins. I think that's how you pronounce it in Zoroastrianism. And in Zoroastrianism, there's 3 Saiyosins. So I just made up my own shit. I just called it like the Saiyosins or whatever. But so if you hear me say that shit, that's not really what it is. But I believe those are the same thing. And in Zoroastrianism, there's three. There's three of them. They are the three sons, and they each one is meant for a specific time period, right? What I learned from Hinduism, right, is and also Zoroastrianism, the three sons have had multiple incarnations. It's they have their counterparts, their wives. It's those people being the same entities in multiple forms, and this is what Jesus meant when "Are you not gods?" Right? Because you are. That's the point, right? Some of us are OG gods. Some of us are later incarnations. Same thing though. No difference. If you're not, you can become one, and that's incredible. You can be your own fucking deity or something. You know what I'm saying? It's not. These things don't conflict, and I think why we had to live without the revelation for so long was because throughout death, a stint in hell, and then rebirth, right? It was just a learning phase. Can you break these karmic cycles? If you have, can you go on a mission into a different bloodline and help break the chains off of that bloodline, right? All before the final say, which is the 3,000 years, right? It is longer. You know what I'm saying? And I think it wasn't until Christ that they had to stay, because after the flood, the people before the flood, they had to stay in hell until Christ, and then Christ could then minister to those souls so that they could then be reborn in the next cycle. So it's just as simple as that. You know what I'm saying? What is and it was Linda Likes Tarot who helped me with this one, because I was going in that direction anyway, but she solidified something when she said, I will depart and you will be sad for a little while because I will be gone. But then I will send you an advocate. I will send you him. Right? It's the Holy Spirit. But the Holy Spirit is also its own personality. Right? It's the Spirit of truth. But he has a personality, just as the Son has a personality, and just as the Father has his own personality. So that individual is a different human, yet, well, he's going to come as a different human, right? But he can exist. But the Holy Spirit encompasses those who choose to receive him. But he has a basic personality. And how would that come? It would come as a person. He said him. He said specifically, he will come. And he is your advocate. He could have said, and the Spirit will come. If that Spirit had its own separate personality, that would be the Holy Spirit in human form. What does Islam say? At the end, there will be the Mahdi. Right? What does Mahdi mean? It means the righteously led one. Right? if you're led by the Spirit, you see what I'm saying? You're righteously led. Now, there could have been a whole bunch of edits and redos and people after him switching up his words. That could have very well been the case. Why did Islam and Christianity and Judaism have this beef for so long, right? Well, they didn't always have a beef. Jews and Muslims, there was times where they coexisted fine in kingdoms together. They saw themselves as family. There was no issue there. Really what it was doing was it was keeping them separate because it was keeping their curriculums separate. It's like I'm not done dealing with multiple people groups yet. I'm trying to get everybody to a basis where they can understand. Europe had to go through the same process. It was like, okay, I'm giving you a chance to understand how it would be to be raised in my household, right? Once these other nations can catch up, this is when we all coexist at this time period where this knowledge is all known and available to us. And now is the time for all of us to mature. That freedom. Now that freedom can be given. Because throughout a systematic amount of past lives, you've garnered enough understanding with the world climbing at the same time. Like, so everything just fits. It's the perfect time. This is why Jesus said, I don't know the day or the hour. Right? Because it's all the schooling that was going to happen. All the nations had to get to a certain point before this introduction or this welcoming of everybody, right? Because he wasn't done. Now that we're here, how do we go forward? That's what you got to think about. Forward, not back. So, you have they say Jesus wasn't the Son of God, but they say he was a prophet. They honor him as a prophet, right? But they don't know. You got to understand their mind's context. Does that really fuck up what God's trying to teach them, right? No. The same way he handled it with the Jews, and the same way he handled it with the Roman Christians, the Catholics. There was Satan in there trying to fuck up the message, right, and get people stuck on just the words in the book and not the spirit, right? When I first opened up the Quran just to read it, I closed it immediately because it said, cursed is the one who says that they have a spirit of fire. Because I closed it immediately because like right before I opened it, I was like, I got a spirit of fire. I opened the book, I read that, I'm like, fuck that, I ain't trying to be cursed. But why did he say that? Because to those people at the time, like, Ishmaelites were a wild group of people. They were very diverse. He had to consolidate. They were used to warfare, living by the sword, bows. It was just how they had to live in that time. It was harsh, right? So he had to like raise up a spirit of fire in one nation, and he had to cool off the fire in another. You see what I'm saying? He's catering to each individual people. And so you have just them growing different, or them getting a different hand. Yeah, because he knew where it came from. He knew how they lived. He was being intentional. And so He was teaching them the submission to God. Catholics had to learn a similar thing. But again, what the devil does is through that stern like learning period, he tries to get you to think that that's all that there is. Like that's just according to each book. God's never gonna like evolve or change the dynamic of things. Yes, he does not change, but he knows that time is a concept. So he is dynamic. This is you can't put him in that little box because you just stagnate your spiritual growth or your understanding of who he is in reality. So, Mahdi, right? Righteously led one, spirit of truth. All of that also coincides with Hinduism. You have the mighty Diva. What's the symbol of Islam? A moon, a crescent moon. You got a god with a crescent moon on his head in Hinduism. These are just truths that are being spoken, but they couldn't be understood because they just didn't have enough context for each individual group. God's handling everybody at the same time. You know what I'm saying? His direct personality was raising Israel. After Christ, his direct personality now dealt with individual groups of people. This is why I would go as far to say, like Buddha, also a prophet. You know what I'm saying? Like these individuals are incarnations of one of the four. And they were meant to push spiritual growth for these individual populations. So at the right time, which is coming, either now or coming soon, that everybody could be at a spiritually mature level enough, right? But also having wisdoms from multiple places, so it's not like all you have to do is just come together, all except the Most High, the sacrifice of the Son, and it reconciles everything. So it's truly like a convergence of timelines, right? But it's also still determinate. Like we have to choose which way we will go. And to be honest, both are true. Like this apocalypse, right? The apocalypse can happen. It's supposed to happen inside of you spiritually so you can grow. So that's one context of it. The whole world's like your perception of the world is going to crumble. Can you hold yourself? You know what I'm saying? Can you keep the faith? It's also going to happen externally, right? But we could choose how bad it is, right? But there's some people who are not gonna fuck with the truth, right? And they're gonna fuck with the lie. But the clever thing about God is that I was watching this video and it said Ishmael will be a wild ass of a man. His hand will be to the sword. He will dwell with his brothers, and he will be at contention with his brothers. That's one interpretation. The oldest like text of that, there's these little lines of like squiggly marks or like commas on shit. And it actually can be read both ways because there's no determination on the word itself. And so it could be read that way, but it could also be read Ishmael is a wild man and he will dwell with his brothers and be at peace amongst all his brothers. You see, each individual Muslim or Ishmaelite, right? They can choose which they will become. And most likely there will be a division between them. One that will be righteously led, and others that choose to cling to strictly that Quran or another religious leader. And they believe in the Dajjal, right? Like, all of this is just what happens, because the door is open, right? The door is open for everyone. But out of either comfortability, familiarity, or pride, some aren't going to choose. So God never really lied. And I think it was purposeful for them not to use those little markings, or an older text when somebody was writing it, like, it just wasn't found. And so God was like, I'm sticking to this one. And this is going to be the truth. The truth is, you have two roads that you can go through. And so now you have this Dajjal, or you have the Mahdi. And whatever circumstances, you know what I'm saying, are at the moment, you know what I'm saying, you make your decision, you go forth, because both are true. Ishmael will be with his brothers, and he will be loved by all of his brothers, and Ishmael will be with his brothers, and he will be at war with all his brothers. It's up to us to to get this knowledge out there, right? Because the truth can set a lot of people free, and it can dictate how bad the apocalypse is, because it could, if enough people do this internal apocalypse work, right? Because all of that is spiritual metaphors that could take place in your internal world. So it really is up to us, but he knows the path that's going to happen either way. And this is what he's informing you of. So, I mean, yeah, the end of the world's going to happen, but it doesn't have to be as bad as you think. If you're willing to do the internal work. But we do have to expect and be real, because when God told Jonah to warn Nineveh, God was fully willing to destroy the goddamn place. Jonah was like, these people are the most wicked people I've ever seen in my life. They'll never change. Nineveh never changed. Jonah was salty, but you know what I'm saying? And God didn't destroy it, did he? I know, he was telling you what was going to happen. If this didn't, that, you know what I'm saying? So you have a lot more authority and say on like how everything ends, because you are a co-creator. Help rewrite the story. Let's do as much as we can. Get as much laborers as possible for the effort. Because, you know, God will destroy some shit. But he would rather the hearts of men and women change. And that's his overall goal. So I don't know how it's going to end. But I know it's going to be good. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be all right. At least for me. Maybe not. I don't know, man. But I know at the end of the day, I'm going to have it. You know what I'm saying? So I ain't going to trip. But But I would push for people to understand more so uh, the amount of love that God does offer, the amount of grace to fully live in that and develop their own relationship with the Lord. That's all he really wants. But again, that's up to you. So, all wisdom comes from God. If there's any ancient spiritual leader, if what they're saying has wisdom, if there's any religion with wisdom in it, all wisdom, not some, not a little bit, all wisdom comes from God. That person was sent there for that specific group of people to instill wisdom, which is from God. No matter how you try to argue against it. Things are being reconciled now. Everything can come together and make perfect sense. It's just what do you want to hold on to? And what do you want to let go of? The offer's there. And God's left all of this shit open for you to make the choice. But he can see multiple timelines. He just knows all of it's going to probably end like this. And so he's like, it's up to you. You really do have free will. It's not a game. You can choose.